Self-love is the new sexy, the podcast devoted to helping you overcome life's most painful and stubborn challenges so you can feel great, have more energy, and live stress-free every day. To reach your full potential, simply work with the powerful spiritual principles that are readily accessible to everyone. It's easier than you think, and on today's show, W. Mark Watts is going to show you how starting with self-love is the key to joyously and harmoniously making that happen.
Hey everybody, this is W. Mark Watts. Hello, welcome, and thank you for hanging out with me for another episode of Self-Love is the New Sexy. And in today's podcast episode, I want to talk about being present in the moment so your happiness can unfold. Being present in this moment and every moment so your happiness can unfold. Now, I was going back and forth over several different topics, and I was able to narrow it down to two. And whenever I can't decide which topics to do, I just start recording live, and whichever one comes top of mind first, that's the one I go with. And I think this one's an important one for me for many reasons. But again, in the day and times that we find ourselves in now, where we're going through some restructuring, some changes, some situations that make us uncomfortable and can cause fear, et cetera, and it's can be as dire as people around the world who are losing their lives because of this particular virus, the coronavirus. I think it's super important that we always shift back or remind ourselves about the fundamentals. And this one fundamental has been top of mind for me for the past several days, which of course is one of the reasons why I'm doing this episode on it, is because I remember when I committed to this principle, I think things started to become easier for me. I was able to focus on things better. And I remember years ago when I used to be a pretty big professional boxing fan. And I'm originally from South Carolina here in the States. And I was a big fan, or still am a big fan, of Evander Holyfield when he was moving up the ranks and he became a heavyweight champion of the world. And after one of his fights, he had lost. And when they were interviewing him after the fight, they asked him, of course, what happened and what can he point to anything in particular that caused him or, allowed him to not come out on top in this particular fight that night. And he answered the question very honestly. And he said, I gave my best, but tonight my best wasn't good enough to win. And that always stuck with me because I'm always looking for nuggets. I'm always looking for information, things that can help me in my life. And so that stuck with me, and that made me even a bigger fan, because oftentimes when we lose or we fail at something or something doesn't go our way, we have excuses. We really make up excuses. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who's ever done that. But we tend to look for reasons why. But Evander was honest. He had trained hard. He had prepared himself. He knew he was in the ring with another qualified opponent who was just as good as, if not better than he was. But he was going to go in and do his best to win that fight. And he did his best, but he came out on the short end of the stick that night, and he was man enough to admit it. So I thought, okay, how can I incorporate that in my life? I've got to give my best and do my best. And so fast forward to years later, as I'm on the brink of my divorce and I have a young son, my main fundamental thought was, if we go through this, if we split, if we divorce, then I have to make sure that I would continue to behave the way that I would if we were to stay married with respect to my son. I knew that I was going to commit to giving my best, and then I would let everything else fall where it may. And so I've incorporated that thought process into my life very seriously. That's why I call it one of the fundamental truths that I live by now is giving my best. So in order for me to give my best, I have to be present in that particular moment. Now, that's not to say everything's going to be perfect, because my life has been far from perfect. And maybe in another episode, I'll outline some of the ways that it has not been perfect. However, if at the end of the day, I know that I've given my best and I've been in that moment, then I can rest. I can lay my head down at night and I can rest well, and I can be content. Not only content, I can be happy with myself, because I know that was my goal when I woke up that morning, was to give my best to the day. And I found that in order to be able to give my best, I have to be in that moment. So what does that mean? Being in the moment, being present. It means definitely not thinking about things that have come before you and happened in the past, because as my friend Rafiki said in The Lion King, it doesn't matter. It is in the past. I know that's a horrible rendition of what he said, but you get the point. The past no longer matters because it's over. Nothing you can do to change that. And then the other thing that you have to guard against is being stuck in the future, which is how we allow our fears to really take over and really start to alter how we think and behave and feel, because we're more concerned with what's going to happen in the future than we are right now in this present moment. Because as quiet as it's kept, all we actually ever have is the present moment. You think about it. As you progress through life, you only have that moment. You're alive and you're feeling and you're doing and you're talking and you're taking in and you're learning and you're changing. You're changing in that moment. You can't do that in the past, and you can't do it for the future. You can't do it in the future. You can only do it in the moment. So focus on those things that are right in front of you and next to you right now, and give your best in that moment. And when that moment's over, give your best to the next moment. If you're cooking dinner, be involved, give your best. If you're talking with someone, listen, respond when it's appropriate. If you're working on an assignment, focus. Don't have your mind in multiple places. Don't try to do more than one thing at a time. Focus on that task at hand so that you can be your best and give your best to the moment. If you're cleaning, get the equipment, the tools, solutions that you need so that you can clean your best, and then do it to the best of your abilities, and then move on to the next thing. So, again, I think we really lose focus. And when we lose focus on being present in the moment, that's what allows all other things to infiltrate, take up our mind share. And then now that causes all kinds of different thoughts to grow bigger than they really are. So today, I simply want to invite you to really be in the moment. Focus on this particular moment. Make it the best moment you can make it. Today for example, I got up not a lot earlier than I normally would, because when I woke up this morning, I felt like I was out of balance. I felt like I was being fearful about some things. I felt like I was letting things affect me that shouldn't affect me. And so what I've learned to do is I've got to spend more time communing with spirit, with the universe, with the divine, And so I started my meditation much earlier than I normally would, and I went much longer than I normally do, because I knew that I had to quiet my mind and I had to focus on positive things. I had to connect. I had to listen. I had to be present in that moment and relax. And I needed to refocus on those things that were important so that I could then, once I got up and started moving that day, that my focus and my steps would be ordered, and I could no longer allow those things in the past and in the future to affect what I was doing right there this morning, in that moment. I had to get myself into the moment. So I had to do whatever I thought was required in order to allow me to be present in the moment. And so you have to do the same thing. You have to do whatever it takes for you to alleviate those fears. Fear is fine. You're going to have fear the rest of your life. I'm going to have fears the rest of my life. Everyone that I know that is honest will admit that they have fears at some time or another. That's not the issue. The issue is, once you feel that fear, what do you do after that? What do you do in that moment? That's the thing. So I knew that I needed to separate myself, allow this fear to wash through me, and continue to move back on. Release it to the universe so that I could get back to the task at hand. And I was able to do that. And my day went a lot more smoothly once I did that. And I've been going strong since 5 o'clock this morning. At the time I'm recording this, it's a little bit after 10 p.m. So, and I still have a little more work to do, and I think I'm going to power down so I can get up early again in the morning and get started again, because I have a host of things that I want to get accomplished tomorrow as well. So again, I'm going to end on this note. It's super, super important that you be present in the very moment that you have, because that's all you ever have. And you want to give your best in that moment, because that's it. That's the ball game. And the way you do that is to push away the past, forget about the future. Because here's what I've learned. It's okay to plan, but what if you focus on doing your best in this moment, and then the next moment and the next moment, you eventually will give yourself that good future or some derivative of that you want. But focusing on it and thinking about it all the time takes away from what you're doing right here in that moment to get to that future. So don't let constant thoughts about the future and the past jeopardize all the beauty that's in this present moment. So stay in the present moment. Give the very best that you can to each moment and each day, and everything that you want in some way, shape, or form will present itself to you in that divine time. So I'm going to leave on that note. Thanks for hanging out with me always. As always, it's a super pleasure to be with you. Stay in the moment, give your very best, stay tuned, and I look forward to speaking with you all again very soon. Bye now.
You've been listening to Self-Love is the New Sexy with W. Mark Watts. If you enjoyed today's show, be sure to tell a friend. Also, make sure you never miss an episode by subscribing to our show on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, or wherever you listen to podcasts.